The realtor never told us the last family to farm that land didn't move away. They went into it. 40 years they've been down there under the dead acre, patient as roots, waiting on somebody broke enough and dumb enough to wake them with a plow. That somebody was me. By the time I understood what $41,000 had actually bought us, my wife was already reaching for the harvest, and the harvest was reaching back. I'm Silas Mortis. I dig through the places online where people bury the things they can't say out loud, and I bring back the ones that turn out to be true. Tonight's came off a deleted r/no sleep thread, posted once at 3 a.m. from a burner account in Hollis, Kansas, then scrubbed an hour later, like he thought better of it. I saved it before it vanished. He titled it one word: Fallow. Now, let's get into the story. The bank had a phrase for what we bought: as is. That's a phrase that should make you run. $41,000 got us the farmhouse, the barn with the caved-in shoulder, and 160 acres outside Hollis, where the map runs out of names. The realtor was a woman named Deb with a lanyard full of keys and a smile she'd practiced in her car. She kept both hands flat on her clipboard the whole walkthrough, never touched a wall. I noticed that later, the way you notice everything later. Nothing's grown out here since the 70s, she said, and laughed like it was a selling point. Land's just resting. Marion squeezed my hand. On the drive up, she'd counted our money out loud twice, $1,100 after the down payment, the way you press a bruise to check if it still hurts. My severance had run dry in March. The diner where she'd waited tables shut its doors when the interstate moved 4 miles south and took its truckers with it. We were the specific kind of broke where you start believing in cheap miracles. 160 acres of nothing looked to us like a second chance you could stand on with both feet. I should tell you about the freezer. Chest freezer in the mudroom, unplugged, coated in dust. Its lid was sealed shut with a ratchet strap somebody had cinched down tight. And here's the thing that took me too long to understand. The strap was buckled from the outside. You don't lock a freezer from the outside to keep the cold in. You do it to keep something from lifting the lid. I didn't read it as a sentence. I was too busy doing math. There was a calendar in the kitchen still turned to a month in 1983. Pencil marks climbing a door frame where some kid had grown, tick by tick, up to 4'2", and then nothing. No more marks. Like the kid just stopped needing to be measured. Marion loved it anyway. She stood in that dead brown yard with her hands on her hips and said, "We'll make it green again." And God help me, I believed her, because she was the kind of woman who could make things grow. Windowsill herbs in a Wichita apartment. A marriage out of 2 people the world had mostly given up on. She had that gift. She tilled the back acre the second week. I told her to wait. The soil out there was black, not brown, not clay red like the rest of the county, but black, wet looking, even in a dry spell. I said, let's get the well tested first. She just laughed and fired up the rototiller I'd bought used off a man in Concordia, and she turned that dead earth over in long ribbons while I watched from the porch with a lukewarm can of Coors and a bad feeling I couldn't name. Green shoots came up overnight. Not in a week, not in 3 days. Overnight. Marion woke me before dawn, dragging me to the window by my wrist, giddy as a girl. Little pale green curls pushing up through the black in neat rows. "It's a sign," she said. She actually cried, and I stood there in my boxers thinking, nothing comes up overnight, thinking about that ratchet strap, and I said nothing at all because she was happier than I'd seen her since Wichita. By the 3rd morning, the shoots were knee-high. By the 4th, they'd passed her waist faster each day, and I started to notice the way they leaned. Plants lean toward light. I knew that much. But these leaned toward the house, toward the windows. In the mornings, I'd find them curled up against the glass of our bedroom, dozens of green tips pressed flat to the pane, like they'd spent the night watching us sleep and only pretended to be a garden when the sun came up. That's when the neighbors showed. Old man, older than the barn, drove up in a rusted-out Ford with a John Deere cap gone gray from sweat. Elias Forrest. Farmed the quarter section to our east his whole life, and his father before him. He didn't get out of the truck, rolled the window down halfway, and looked past me at the back acre with an expression I've only ever seen on men at funerals. "You tilled it," he said. "Not a question. My wife did. Coming up beautiful." He was quiet a long moment. Then the Kesslers tilled it too, about 40 years back. He put the Ford in reverse. "You seem like nice folks. Salt your doorways. Don't eat anything comes off that ground." And he drove away before I could ask him a single thing, gravel spitting from his tires like he couldn't leave fast enough. Now, I want to be honest with you about what I thought was happening, because I was sure I had it figured out. I thought the house was haunted. That's misdirection. The ground was happy to let me believe. There were sounds at night, see? A wet shifting under the floorboards, a sound like someone chewing slow in another room. Marion started sleepwalking, which she'd never done in 9 years of marriage. Twice I found her at the back door with her hand on the knob, eyes open, humming a tune I didn't know. So I did what a scared man does. I salted the doorways like Elias said. I nailed the back door shut. I told myself I was protecting us from whatever the Kesslers left behind in these walls. I was guarding the wrong direction entirely. Because the other thing I got wrong, the thing that still sits in my chest like a swallowed stone, is that I started to think Marion was leaving me. She got distant those last days. Quiet. She'd stand at the kitchen window for an hour just looking at the field, and when I touched her shoulder, she'd flinch like I was a stranger. She stopped counting our money, stopped talking about the future. One night, I heard her on her cell in the bathroom, voice low, and my gut went cold and stupid and small, and I thought, she's calling someone. She's had enough of broken, haunted. She's going to go. I checked her phone the next morning while she slept. Last call was to her own voicemail. She'd been calling her own number over and over just to hear her own voice on the recording. Like she was checking, she was still real. Like something had started making her doubt it. I didn't understand that until it was far too late to matter. The corn, because that's what it had become. Corn taller than either of us, black, green, and glistening. The corn was ready by the end of the month. Marion said so at breakfast, calm and certain, in a voice that was almost hers. "Harvest's ready. I can feel it." She said she could feel it. I remember my coffee stopped halfway to my mouth. I went to work on the barn roof that afternoon. 20 minutes, maybe. I heard her scream, one short scream, cut off clean, or like a phone yanked from a wall. And I came off that ladder so fast I put a nail through my own palm and didn't feel it till the next day. She was at the edge of the field, knee-deep in the black soil and sinking. I want to be precise because he was precise in the post, and I owe it to him. When I got there, she was already down to her hips and the ground was moving. Not caving, moving. The black earth rose in a slow ripple around her, like water taking a stone. She wasn't clawing. That's the part I can't put down. She wasn't fighting. She had this look of recognition, like she'd finally been introduced to someone she'd been hearing about her whole life. I grabbed her hand. The field pulled her under. I saw her hand sink into black soil that closed over her fingers, like a mouth closing over a bite, unhurried. And then the surface smoothed itself flat and clean, and there were only my own 2 boots in the dirt and the corn all around me rustling, though there wasn't a breath of wind in the whole county that day. I dug. Of course I dug. I dug with the tiller and then with a shovel, and then with my bare hands until my nails peeled back. And I never found her. Never found so much as a thread of her shirt. Just black soil, deeper than a shovel could measure, and a smell coming up out of it like a root cellar that had been closed for 40 years. The sheriff came. 2 deputies, then dogs, then 3 days on, nobody. There's a version of this story where the husband is the suspect, and I lived inside that version for a while. The way they looked at, the way Deb the realtor wouldn't return my calls. But there was no evidence, because there was no crime a court could name. A woman went into a field, and the field kept her. Try writing that on a form. Elias came back the night after they called off the search, sat in his truck in my driveway with the engine running, and this time I went to him. "You knew," I said. "Everybody in this county knows." He wouldn't look at me. Land like that don't die. It sleeps. Kessler woke it in '83, took his whole family, one at a time, and after it went quiet again, went back to Fallow. He finally turned his head and his eyes were wet and ashamed. 40 years, it's hungry again. We keep folks off it best we can. But then some poor broke soul comes along who doesn't know to be scared, and the bank sells it as is, and he stopped. I'm sorry, son. We should have burned that house down years ago. We just kept hoping nobody'd till it. He'd known. The whole county had known, and they'd handled it the way you handle a thing you're too frightened to face directly, by looking away and hoping it stayed asleep on somebody else's watch. That was the cruelest misdirection of all. Not the house, not my marriage. The whole quiet town, standing at the edge of the dark, holding hands and pretending not to see. So I did the only thing left to a man with nothing. I burned it, poured every gallon of gas from the barn across that black acre and lit it and watched the corn go up screaming. I swear to you it screamed, high and thin and layered, like 100 voices caught mid-word. I burned the acre down to ash. Then I salted it. Rock salt, ice melt, 40 bags I bought on a maxed out card from the Menards in Salina. And I spread every grain of it over the smoking ground until it was white as January. I burned it, and I salted it. And I did not wait. That's the one thing I did right. I didn't wait around to see. I drove to a motel off I-70, and I stayed gone all winter, and every night I told myself it was over, that fire and salt were older than whatever slept down there, that Marion was at peace, and the ground was dead again, and 40 more years could rot by before it stirred. I almost believed it. I made it all the way to spring. Then I drove back out to sell the place, signed papers, empty hands, ready to hand the nightmare to the bank and never look at Kansas again. I got out of the truck in the gray morning light and I looked at the back acre expecting a white salt scar. Expecting nothing. The shoots had returned. Green curls, pushing up through the salt and the ash in those same neat rows, leaning toward the house, toward me. And as I stood there with my keys still in my hand and the cold going up my spine one vertebra at a time, one of the shoots at the front, the tallest one, the one nearest the porch steps, it opened, not like a flower, like a throat. And it spoke. It wore her voice. Every warm note of it, the little catch she got when she was happy, the voice off her own voicemail she'd called and called, just to be sure she still existed. It said my name, the way only she said it. And then it said the thing that put me in this chair, typing to strangers at 3 a.m, because I have nobody left to tell. Honey, come help me with the planting. Because that's what I finally understood, standing there. She wasn't calling for rescue. She never had been. The field doesn't take you to kill you. It takes you to make more. She's not buried out there. She's sown. And the seed only calls the ones it knows will come. The husband. The next broke, grieving fool who'll walk out into a salted field in the gray light because a voice he loved asked him to. Because down under all that fear, part of him would rather be planted beside her than live one more day above the ground without her. I'm still in the driveway. I've been in the driveway for a long time. The voice is very patient and very kind, and it has not stopped calling, and my boots have started, without my permission, to turn toward the field. If this posts, it's because I did the last free thing I had left, which was to warn you before I go. Don't ever buy the cheap land. The land is cheap for a reason. The land is hungry. If this story got its hooks into you, do me one small favor before you go. Hit that like button. It's free. It takes a second, and it's the single biggest thing that tells YouTube to put these stories in front of the next person who needs a good scare. Subscribe while you're down there, because I bring you a new true tale from the dark corners of the web every single day. And if you know somebody who loves horror the way you do, share this with them. Some fears are better faced together. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. There's another story waiting for you right there on your screen. Go on, it won't bite much. I'm Silas Mortis. Keep your doorways salted, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night.